You know, I've replayed that night in my head 1,000 times, and I still can't figure out which part hurts the most, the words coming out of my own daughter's mouth, or the look on my wife's face when they did. It was just a regular Sunday dinner, nothing special. I'd spent the day out in the garage fixing the carburetor on my old Ford pickup, something I've done 100 times since I bought it new in 2001. Came in sweaty, hands still smelling like gasoline, and Sarah had the table set nice like she used to do when we were first married. Pot roast, mashed potatoes, those little carrots she knows I like. Emily, our 16-year-old, was already at the table scrolling on her phone, earbuds dangling, giving me that teenage eye roll the second I walked in. I tried to keep it light, asked her how school was going, if she needed anything for the cheer squad. Same stuff I always ask. But she was in a mood, said something smart about how I wouldn't understand because I'm old and out of touch. I laughed it off at first, told her to watch her tone, that I pay for that phone and the roof over her head. That's when it went sideways. She slammed her fork down, stood up so fast the chair scraped across the tile like nails on a chalkboard, and screamed. Actually screamed, "You're not my real dad anyway. So stop acting like you get to tell me what to do." The whole room just stopped. Silverware frozen halfway to mouths. The clock on the wall ticking louder than I'd ever heard it. Sarah went white as the tablecloth, hands shaking so bad her water glass tipped and spilled across the potatoes. Emily's face was red, tears already coming, and then she bolted upstairs. Door slammed hard enough to rattle the pictures on the wall. I sat there like an idiot, mouth open, roast getting cold in front of me. Couldn't move, couldn't think. 23 years with Sarah, 16 years raising that girl, diapers, t-ball, braces, teaching her to drive in the church parking lot last summer. And in 1 second it all felt like it got yanked out from under me. Sarah wouldn't look at me, just kept staring at the spill spreading across the tablecloth like it was the most interesting thing in the world. Finally she whispered, "Mark, finish eating. We'll talk after you're done." I wasn't hungry anymore. Pushed the plate away. Told her I'd be in the living room. I sat on the couch in the dark, TV off, just listening to her clean up downstairs. Plates clinking, water running, that nervous little hum she does when she's scared. Took her almost an hour to come find me. She sat on the ottoman across from my chair, knees together, hands twisting that same tissue until it shredded. Then she said the words that ended my whole damn life as I knew it. "There's something I need to tell you about what happened 16 years ago, right around the time I got pregnant with Emily." I didn't say anything, just waited, because somehow, deep in my gut, I already knew whatever came next was going to burn everything to the ground. I just stared at her, waiting for the punchline that never came. The living room lamp was one of those cheap ones from Walmart that buzzes when it's about to die. That night it sounded like a hornet trapped in my skull. Sarah couldn't even get the words out at first. Kept opening her mouth, closing it, wiping her eyes with what was left of that shredded tissue. Finally she whispered, "It was only once, Mark. One stupid night. I was so scared you'd find out and leave me." I felt my jaw lock up. My voice came out flat, like someone else was using it. "Who?" She swallowed so hard I heard it. "Derek. Derek Langford. Derek. Freaking Langford. The guy who used to be my best friend from high school. The one I got a job for at the plant back when we were 25. The same son of a gun who stood up as my best man when Sarah and I got married in '99. I hadn't seen him in years. Last I heard he'd moved to Colorado after his divorce." I laughed. Couldn't help it. One of those short, ugly laughs that hurts your throat. "Derek." Of course it was Derek. Sarah started crying harder, rocking a little on that ottoman like she used to rock Emily when she had colic. "It was right after we lost the second baby," she said. "You were working double shifts to cover the hospital bills, and I was drowning, Mark. Derek came over one night to drop off some tools you lent him, and we drank the rest of that bottle of Jack you kept above the fridge. I woke up in our bed, and he was gone before sunrise. I never spoke to him again. I swear on everything. I just kept staring at the carpet. Same carpet we picked out together when we bought this house in 2005. I still remember her jumping up and down because it was on clearance. Now I couldn't even look at her. So Emily." I couldn't finish the sentence. "I didn't know for sure," she said quick, like that made it better. "Not until tonight. She's been acting strange for weeks, sneaking around on her phone. I thought it was just boys or whatever. Then tonight she said her boyfriend told her. That Derek reached out to her on Instagram a couple months ago. Sent her a message saying he thinks she might be his kid. I felt the blood leave my face. She's been talking to him? Sarah nodded, ashamed. She showed me the messages after she calmed down upstairs. He sent her a picture of himself holding a baby photo of her. Said the resemblance was crazy. Told her he always wondered. She got mad at me, said I ruined her life by lying. Then she came downstairs, and you heard the rest. I stood up so fast the recliner slammed back against the wall. My hands were shaking. You've known for 16 years that there was a chance, and you never told me? Not once. I was terrified, she yelled, then clapped a hand over her mouth like she was scared of her own voice. We were finally happy again. You were so excited when I got pregnant. I told myself it had to be yours. The timing was close enough, and I buried it. I thought if I never said it out loud, it wouldn't be real. I walked out of the room before I did something I couldn't take back. Slept in the garage that night on an old army cot I keep for hunting trips. Stank of oil and regret, but it beat sharing a bed with 23 years of lies. Next morning I told her I wanted a paternity test. No discussion. She just nodded like she'd been waiting for it. 3 days later, I drove Emily to Quest Diagnostics myself. She wouldn't look at me the whole ride. Kept her face turned to the window, earbuds in, crying silent. I paid the extra $100 for the 48-hour rush results. Those 2 days were the longest of my life. The envelope showed up on a Thursday, thin little thing that weighed about 1,000 pounds. I was sitting in the driveway in my work truck, engine off, just staring at it on the passenger seat. Quest Diagnostics return address. I'd paid the lab directly so Sarah wouldn't see the charge on the card. I didn't open it right away. Sat there like a coward for 20 minutes listening to some classic rock station fade in and out because the antenna's been bent since Emily backed into the garage door last year. Finally ripped it open with my pocket knife. Probability of paternity, 0%. Not excluded, 0 out of 21 loci match. I read it 4 times, waiting for the words to change. They didn't. I don't remember driving to the plant, but I must have, because next thing I knew I was in the parking lot with the foreman asking why I was 3 hours late. Told him my daughter died. Wasn't far from the truth. When I got home that evening, Sarah was at the kitchen table grading papers. She still teaches 3rd grade at Lincoln Elementary. I slid the report across the table without a word. She looked at the first page, closed her eyes, and started crying those quiet tears that don't make any noise. I just stood there, arms hanging like they belonged to somebody else. I'm sorry was all she could say, over and over, like a broken record. Sorry didn't feel like enough. Not even close. That night, I moved into the spare bedroom. Told her I needed space to think. Truth was I couldn't stand the smell of her coconut shampoo on the pillows anymore. Next day, I called in sick, first time in 19 years, and drove straight to my old army buddy Tom's house. Tom's a private investigator now, retired cop, the kind of guy who still keeps a 38 in his truck console and doesn't ask stupid questions. Told him everything over coffee on his back porch while his dogs barked at squirrels. He listened, scratched his beard, then said, "You want the full picture or just enough to make the pain stop?" I told him full picture. If my life was going to burn, I wanted to know exactly what lit the match. Tom started digging that same afternoon. Social media, phone records, old emails, the works. Turns out Emily had been messaging Derek for almost 4 months. Hundreds of messages. He'd been love-bombing her, telling her how proud he was, sending her money through Venmo for clothes and stuff your mom won't buy you. 50 here, 100 there. Nothing huge, but steady. Then Tom found the real kicker. Derek hadn't just ghosted after that one night. He and Sarah had kept talking. Sporadic texts for almost 2 years after Emily was born. Thinking about you at 2 a.m., heart emojis. A couple meetups when I was on overnight shifts. Tom pulled cell tower pings that put them both at the same Super 8 off I-65 one night in 2009. Sarah swore it never went physical again. Tom just looked at me and said, "People lie, phones don't." By the time he laid all the printouts on my kitchen table a week later, I wasn't even angry anymore. Just hollow, like someone scooped everything out and left the shell. Emily wouldn't speak to me. Spent all her time at her friend Kaylee's house. Sarah kept trying to hug me, apologize, promise counseling. I just kept thinking about every father-daughter dance, every Christmas morning, every time I told that girl I was proud of her. Turns out none of it was mine to give. I made one decision that night, sitting alone with a bottle of Maker's Mark I didn't even open. I was done being the punchline. First thing I did was call my lawyer, Rich Caldwell. Known him since Little League. His dad and my dad used to hunt together. Rich doesn't mess around, no fluffy talk, just facts and invoices. I met him at his office the next morning, still smelling like the garage couch I'd been sleeping on. I slid Tom's folder across his desk and said, I want to know exactly what I'm entitled to if I file tomorrow. Rich flipped through the paternity report, the Venmo screenshots, the old text message logs Tom had pulled from a backup of Sarah's ancient iPhone. He let out a low whistle. Brother, you've got fraud written all over this. Marital fraud, paternity fraud, dissipation of assets. The Derek Venmo gifts to Emily? That's coming out of the marital pot, if we can prove Sarah knew. Turns out Sarah had known about the payments. Emily showed me the phone one night, when she was drunk on anger and White Claw. Sarah had even thanked Derek in one group chat for helping with Emily's cheer expenses. I took screenshots before Emily realized what she'd done and snatched the phone back. Rich leaned back in his chair. Here's the deal, Mark. Kentucky is an equitable distribution state, not 50-50. But you've been the sole provider for 16 years while she taught part-time and banked most of her paycheck into a separate savings account you never knew about. That's traceable. We freeze everything the minute we file, emergency motion, no notice. She won't be able to move a dime. I asked the question I'd been scared to ask. Can I walk away clean? He tapped the paternity report. You have zero legal obligation to Emily. You can petition to disestablish paternity, terminate any future child support claim, and demand repayment of every dollar you spent raising her that wasn't court-ordered. That's 6 figures easy, college fund included. Judges hate paternity fraud. Makes MC red. I felt something loosen in my chest for the first time in weeks. Rich kept going. Plus, the house is in your name only, title from before the marriage, refinanced solely in yours in 2018 when her credit tanked after those medical bills. She's got no equity claim if we prove infidelity and fraud. Same with your 401k, your pension, the boat. All premarital or solely yours. I just nodded. For the first time since that Sunday dinner, I felt like I was standing on solid ground again. We spent the next 10 days building the case like we were loading a rifle. Tom kept digging. Found out Derek had been bragging to some mutual buddies online about finally getting his daughter back. Idiot even posted a throwback photo of him and Sarah from high school with the caption, "What goes around comes around." Tom printed it in color. I moved the maximum cash advance the credit cards would allow into an account Sarah didn't know existed, just in case. Paid Tom and Rich up front. Slept maybe 3 hours a night, but it was the first time in weeks I wasn't waking up tasting metal. On a Wednesday morning in early May, while Sarah was at school and Emily was at cheer practice, the process server handed her the papers in the staff parking lot. Divorce complaint, emergency motion to freeze all accounts, petition to disestablish paternity, demand for reimbursement of child-rearing expenses going back 16 years. Rich told me later she sat down on the asphalt and cried so hard a janitor thought she was having a heart attack. I wasn't there to see it. I was at the bank, closing every joint account we ever had. That afternoon, the house felt like a tomb. I came home to get more clothes and found Sarah sitting at the kitchen table, surrounded by the divorce papers like they were a crime scene. Her eyes were swollen, mascara running down to her chin. She looked up at me and whispered, "You're really doing this?" I didn't answer. Just walked past her to the bedroom and started filling a duffel. She followed me, voice cracking. "Mark, please. We can go to counseling. I'll tell Emily the truth. I'll make Derek stay away. Anything." I zipped the bag, looked her dead in the eye for the first time in weeks. "You had 16 years to tell the truth, Sarah. You don't get another chance just because the lie finally bit you." She grabbed my arm. "What about the house? The cars? My retirement?" "Read the motion," I said, pulling away. "You're about to find out what happens when you build a life on quicksand." I left her standing in the hallway crying and drove straight to Tom's place. He'd already set up a spare room for me, said his wife was visiting her sister in Florida and I could stay as long as I needed. First night, I slept 10 straight hours. First real sleep since the dinner. Next morning, Rich called. Judge signed the emergency freeze order at 9:07 a.m. Every joint account, her teacher's credit union, even the Venmo she used for classroom fundraisers, locked tight. She couldn't buy a coffee without it bouncing. Sarah blew my phone up all day. 47 missed calls, texts that went from begging to bargaining to rage. One of them said, "You're destroying Emily's senior year over one mistake I made before she was even born." I saved every single one. Rich told me to. Then came the Facebook post. Oh Lord, the Facebook post. Sarah put it on blast that evening. Long, tear-soaked paragraph about how her cruel husband of 23 years was abandoning her and her daughter after one youthful indiscretion. Tagged half the church, all her teacher friends, even my cousin Darlene in Ohio. Said I was trying to leave them homeless and penniless. Within an hour my phone was exploding again, except this time it was old friends, guys from the plant, even my own sister asking if I'd lost my mind. I didn't respond to a single one. Just forwarded the whole mess to Rich and went fishing with Tom on the Cumberland River. Caught a 6-pound smallmouth and threw it back. Felt good to watch something swim away free. By the time we got back, the post had 187 comments. That's when the tide turned. Someone, nobody knows who, leaked the paternity report. Redacted just enough to protect Emily's name, but with Sarah's and Derek's full names right there in black and white. Then the old texts started circulating. Then the Venmo screenshots. Then Derek's dumb, what goes around post from 2 weeks earlier. Overnight, Sarah went from victim to villain in every group chat from here to Bowling Green. I didn't start any of it. Didn't have to. Truth's got a way of running faster than lies ever do. 2 days after the Facebook mess, I got a call from a number I hadn't seen in 15 years. Derek. I let it ring twice, then picked up just to hear what kind of garbage he thought he could sell me. He started right in with that fake concerned voice guys use when they're trying to sound bigger than they are. Mark, man, I think we got off on the wrong foot here. Emily reached out to me, not the other way around. I just want to be part of her life, that's all. I didn't say a word for a solid 5 seconds. Then I laughed. Same short, ugly laugh from the night Sarah told me. Derek, the last time you stuck your nose in my family, you left before the sheets were cold. You don't get to play daddy now because it's convenient. You want a relationship with that girl? Earn it without hiding behind my paycheck like you've been doing for 16 years. He started stammering. It wasn't like that. I cut him off. Every dime you Venmo'd her came from money I busted my back for. You're a freeloader with better hair. Stay away from her, stay away from Sarah, and sure as hell stay away from me, or I'll let the judge explain the difference between child support and theft. Then I hung up. Felt good. Real good. Rich called an hour later laughing so hard he could barely talk. Derek had tried to friend request Rich on LinkedIn with a message that said, "Maybe we can all work this out like men." Rich screenshotted it, marked it Exhibit Q, and added it to the fraud claim. By the end of that week, Sarah's public support had dried up like a creek in August. Church ladies stopped bringing casseroles. Parents at school started pulling their kids out of her 3rd grade class. Principal put her on paid leave, pending investigation, after somebody emailed the paternity report to the school board. Emily, poor kid, became a ghost. Quit cheer, stopped going to youth group, just shuffled between our house and Kaylee's like a zombie. I tried talking to her once in the driveway. She looked me dead in the eye and said, "I wish you'd just died instead. At least then I'd still have a dad." That one cut deeper than anything Sarah ever did. I didn't sleep for 3 days after. But I didn't fold. Couldn't. Because folding would have meant letting them rewrite the story where I was the villain for refusing to keep paying for a lie. Rich scheduled the first hearing for mid-June. Temporary orders on support, possession of the house, and who got stuck with the attorney fees. Sarah's lawyer, some hotshot from Louisville who does all the teachers' union cases, tried to paint me as vindictive, claimed I was emotionally abusing Emily by moving out. Judge Harlan, old school guy pushing 70, wasn't having it. He looked over the top of his glasses at Sarah's attorney and said, "Ma'am, your client perpetrated a 16-year fraud on this man and now wants to cry victim because he won't keep writing checks? Sit down." He awarded me exclusive use of the house, my name on the deed anyway, froze Sarah out of my retirement accounts, and ordered her to pay interim attorney fees of $15,000 within 30 days or face contempt. Sarah left the courthouse crying again. This time nobody offered her a tissue. I walked out into that hot Kentucky sun feeling something I hadn't felt in months. Forward motion. That $15,000 judgment hit Sarah like a freight train. She didn't have it. Her separate savings account, the one she'd been quietly feeding for years, only had about 22,000 in it. She'd been planning to use it for Emily's college, or so she told anybody who'd listen. Rich made sure the judge knew it had been built almost entirely during the marriage while I paid every mortgage payment, every utility bill, every grocery run. Judge Harlan didn't blink. Ordered the account liquidated and the money put in the court registry until final division. Sarah had to hand over the check in open court. I watched her write it with a hand shaking so bad the first one got torn up. Second one went through. After that, things got real quiet on her end. No more Facebook sob stories. No more texts begging me to think of Emily. Just silence and the sound of her world shrinking. Emily moved in with Sarah's sister in Clarksville for the summer. Kid couldn't stand to look at either one of us. I sent her a text on her 17th birthday. Nothing heavy, just happy birthday, kiddo. I'm still here if you ever want to talk. She left me on read. That one stung, but I understood. 16 years of believing one thing, then finding out it was all smoke. I wasn't going to force her to pick a side before she was ready. Meanwhile, Tom kept digging because I asked him to. Not for revenge. I was past that. Just wanted every card on the table before we walked into the final hearing. That's when he hit gold. Turns out Sarah had opened a second, secret checking account at a little credit union in Hendersonville, Tennessee, right across the state line. Different last name, her maiden name, different address, some P.O. box. She'd been routing $4,002,000 a month out of our joint account for the last 4.5 years through miscellaneous, cash withdrawals, and Zelle transfers to herself. Total, almost $115,000. Tom found it because the credit union sent a 1,099 INT to our home address by mistake last January. Sarah must have intercepted the mail, but the IRS still had a record. Rich subpoenaed the statements, and there it was, clean as you please. I sat in Rich's office staring at those pages and felt my blood pressure hit the roof. That money was supposed to be our cushion. The in case the plant ever closes money. The help Emily with college money. Instead, Sarah had been stockpiling it like a squirrel while I worked overtime every spring to keep the lights on. Rich just grinned that shark grin of his. Congratulations, Mark. Your wife just handed us the keys to the kingdom. This is textbook dissipation of marital assets and concealment. We're adding it to the fraud claim, plus interest, plus punitive. Judge Harlan's going to make her pay it back dollar for dollar, and she's got no way to hide it now. We filed the amended complaint the next day. Same process, server delivered it to Sarah while she was pumping gas at the Shell on the bypass. Guy said she dropped the nozzle and just stood there watching $4.19 gas pour onto the concrete while she read the new numbers. I didn't smile about it, just felt tired. 23 years of building something together, and it turns out she'd been hollowing it out from the inside the whole time. But tired or not, I wasn't stopping. Not until every penny was accounted for and every lie had a price tag. August rolled in like a blast furnace, and the final hearing was set for the first week of September. Rich told me flat out we were going to trial. Sarah's lawyer had stopped returning calls about settlement once they saw the hidden account evidence. They knew they were cooked. I spent those weeks tying up every loose end. Got the house appraised. Came in at $318,000, all equity mine since the deed never had her name. Moved anything sentimental into storage. My dad's old Army footlocker, the photo albums from before Emily, my tools. Left the furniture. Didn't want any more of her memories than I had to. Emily came by once, unannounced, on a Tuesday evening. Pulled up in her aunt's Camry while I was mowing the backyard. Stood there on the porch looking small, arms wrapped around herself like she was cold even though it was 95 degrees. I killed the mower and walked over slow. Hey kid. She wouldn't meet my eyes. Aunt Lisa says Mom might have to move to an apartment. That true? I nodded. Probably. She bit her lip so hard I thought it'd bleed. I hate her, she whispered. But I hate myself more for saying what I said to you at dinner. I felt my throat close up. Wanted to hug her, but she had her arms locked tight across her chest like a shield. Emily, none of this is your fault. You were lied to same as me. She finally looked up, eyes red. You were my dad every day I needed one. Biology doesn't get to erase that. Then she cried. Hard. I pulled her in and let her soak the front of my t-shirt while the cicadas screamed in the trees. We stood there a long time. When she pulled away, she said, I'm coming to court. I want the judge to hear it from me. I told her she didn't have to. She said she did. The morning of trial, courthouse was packed. Word had gotten around. Half the county wanted to see how this one ended. Sarah walked in looking like she'd aged 10 years. Hair flat, no makeup, wearing the same navy dress she saves for funerals. Emily sat on my side of the gallery, right behind me. Sarah saw her and started crying before the bailiff even called the case. Judge Harlan took the bench, adjusted his glasses, and said, "I've read the pleadings, gentlemen. I'm not inclined to waste anybody's time. Mr. Caldwell, call your first witness." Rich stood up. "Your Honor, our first witness is Emily Grace Thompson." Sarah's lawyer shot out of his chair objecting about relevance and trauma to the child. Judge shut him down with one look. "Son, this child has been the centerpiece of a 16-year fraud. She'll be heard. Sit." Emily walked to the stand like she was marching to her own execution. Swore in, sat down, folded her hands exactly like I taught her when she was 6 and nervous about her first spelling bee. Rich asked gentle questions. She answered clear and steady. "I always believed Mark Thompson was my father. I found out the truth because my biological father contacted me. My mother knew there was a chance and never told Mr. Thompson. He's the one who taught me to ride a bike, helped with homework, paid for braces, cheered at every game. No one else ever did any of that. I want the court to know he's my dad in every way that matters." Then she looked straight at Sarah and said, "You took that from both of us. I hope you're proud." You could have heard a pin drop on carpet. Sarah was sobbing into a Kleenex. Her lawyer tried to cross-examine, asked if she was being coached. Emily looked him in the eye and said, "The only person who ever coached me to lie was sitting over there," and pointed at her mother. Judge Harlan thanked Emily, told her she could step down, then looked out over the courtroom and said, "I've been on this bench 29 years. I have never seen a clearer case of intentional fraud. We're done here." He didn't even break for recess. Judge Harlan didn't waste words. He ruled from the bench like he was reading a death sentence, and for Sarah, it pretty much was. Paternity is hereby disestablished as to Mark Thompson. All prior child support, medical expenses, and college contributions paid by Mr. Thompson are declared to have been obtained by fraud. Judgment is entered against Sarah Thompson in the amount of $187,400, representing direct child-rearing expenses from birth to age 17, plus statutory interest. He didn't stop there. The court finds intentional dissipation and concealment of marital assets in the amount of $114,832 from the secret Hendersonville account. That sum, plus 10% punitive interest, is awarded solely to Mr. Thompson. The court further finds marital fault based on adultery and prolonged deception. Accordingly, Sarah Thompson is awarded zero interest in the marital residence, Mr. Thompson's 401k, pension, tools, boat, or any premarital property. Sarah made this broken little sound when he got to the house. Judge kept going. Mrs. Thompson is solely responsible for her own attorney fees and is ordered to pay $28,000 toward Mr. Thompson's fees within 60 days. Failure to comply will result in wage garnishment and possible incarceration for contempt. Then he looked right at Sarah, voice hard as the gavel he was about to drop. "Young lady, you stole 16 years of this man's life and tried to steal the rest. You do not get to walk away with a participation trophy." Bang! Gavel hit the block so hard the water glasses jumped. Courtroom erupted. Couple guys in the back, mechanics from the plant, actually started clapping until the bailiff glared them down. Sarah just sat there staring at the table. Her lawyer packed his briefcase like he couldn't get out fast enough. Emily reached over the rail and squeezed my shoulder. I covered her hand with mine and felt the first real breath I'd taken in months. We walked out into that September sunshine together. Cameras from the local news were waiting on the courthouse steps. Somebody had tipped them off. Emily stepped right up to the microphones before I could stop her. "My name is Emily Thompson," she said, chin high. "Mark Thompson is my dad. He always will be. My mother lied to both of us for money and convenience. Today the truth won. That's all I have to say." Then she took my arm, and we walked down those steps like we'd just won the damn Super Bowl. Sarah tried to follow us out, calling Emily's name, but Emily never turned around. Security had to escort Sarah out a side door when people started yelling. Rich met us at the bottom of the steps, grinning ear to ear, slapped me on the back, and said, "Brother, you just set the county record for biggest fraud judgment in a divorce. Bar tabs on me for the rest of your natural life." I laughed, actually laughed, for the first time since spring. That night, Emily and I went to the little Mexican place we always used to go after her ball games. Sat in our old booth, ordered the same fajitas for two. She stole my limes like she's done since she was 8. Felt almost normal. Almost. The judgment was signed and filed before the ink was dry. Rich walked it over to the clerk himself, paid the extra fee to get certified copies that same afternoon. By the next morning, I had a lien on Sarah's teacher's retirement, a garnishment order on her paycheck, and a writ to seize the secret Hendersonville account, whatever crumbs were left after the court took its cut. She tried one last play, filed for bankruptcy 2 weeks later, hoping to dodge the fraud judgment. Rich was ready. Fraud debts are non-dischargeable under federal law. Her filing got dismissed with prejudice, and she ate another $8,000 in lawyer fees for nothing. By Thanksgiving, she was living in a one-bedroom apartment above the dry cleaners on Main. Had to sell her SUV to make the first payment on my attorney fees. I heard from Tom she took a weekend job stocking shelves at the Walmart in Clarksville just to cover rent. Derek? Vanished. Shut down all his social media, quit his job in Colorado, and moved to who knows where. Last anyone heard, he was trying to sell timeshares in Branson. Good luck collecting child support from that clown. Emily moved back in with me the day she turned 17. Brought 2 suitcases and her old teddy bear she swore she'd outgrown. We didn't talk much the first week, just circled each other like 2 people learning how to live in the same house again. Then one night she came into the garage while I was rebuilding the carburetor on the Ford for the 3rd time this year. "Daddy," she said, voice small. First time she'd called me that since the blow-up. I put the wrench down. "Yeah, baby. I'm sorry I ever doubted you. I was so mad at everybody I couldn't see straight." I pulled her into a hug that smelled like gasoline and teenage girl shampoo. Already forgiven, kid. Long time ago. She started seeing a counselor the high school recommended. I went to a few sessions with her when she asked. Turns out carrying 16 years of somebody else's lie leaves scars on everybody it touches. We kept the house. I paid off the last of the mortgage with part of the judgment money when Sarah's retirement got liquidated. Titles in my name only now, clean and clear. Emily painted her room a color called sea salt that looks gray until the sun hits it right. Said it felt like a fresh start. Christmas that year was quiet. Just the 2 of us, a little tree from the hardware store lot, and the same prime rib I used to cook when she was little. She hung the ornament I made her in shop class when she was 6, popsicle sticks and glitter that still sheds on the carpet. We watched It's a Wonderful Life and didn't bother hiding the tears. Sarah sent a card. Emily read it, folded it once, and dropped it in the trash without showing me. Some bridges you don't rebuild. It's been almost a year and a half now since the gavel fell. Some mornings I still wake up expecting to hear Sarah humming in the kitchen or Emily yelling that she can't find her other shoe. Takes a second for the quiet to remind me the house is mine again. Really mine. No ghosts hiding in the walls. Emily graduated last May. Walked across that stage in her blue cap and gown, looked straight at me in the bleachers, and mouthed, "Love you, Dad." I bawled like a baby, didn't even try to hide it. Took her to the beach right after, just the 2 of us. First vacation I've had in 12 years that didn't involve overtime or overtime pay. She starts community college in January, lives here, pays what she can from her diner job. We're good. Sarah's still in that apartment. Word is the school board forced her into early retirement last fall. Too many parents wouldn't let their kids stay in her class. The garnishment hits her check like clockwork. She'll be paying me until she's 70, maybe longer. I don't keep tabs anymore. The money shows up. I put half in a savings account with Emily's name on it for when she transfers to a 4-year school. The rest keeps the lights on and the Ford running. Looking back, the signs were there. The way Sarah got quiet every time Derek's name came up at reunions. How she always changed the subject when I talked about getting Emily's DNA done for one of those ancestry kits. I just trusted her. Thought 23 years earned that. Turns out trust is only as strong as the person you give it to. I still see guys I know from the plant nodding at me in the grocery store, giving that little half salute like I'm some kind of folk hero. Makes me uncomfortable. I didn't win anything. I just refused to keep losing. Emily asked me once, real quiet over supper, if I ever think about dating again. Told her maybe someday, when the thought of it doesn't feel like cheating on a memory. She just nodded and said, "You deserve to be happy, Dad. For real this time." Maybe she's right. Last thing, Couple months ago, I got a letter in the mail, no return address, postmarked Denver. Inside was a single cashier's check for 12 grand and a note in handwriting I hadn't seen since high school. I can't fix what I broke. This is a start. I'm sorry. Signed, Derek. I stared at it a long time, then endorsed it over to Emily's college fund and dropped it in the bank. Never wrote back. Some apologies come 16 years too late, and some debts you don't get to pay with money. I still drive that old Ford every day. Still smells like gasoline and second chances. Some nights I sit out on the porch with a beer, watch the stars come out over the same Kentucky hills I've known my whole life, and I think, I lost a wife, but I kept my daughter. I lost a past built on lies, but I got a future built on truth. And brother, let me tell you, truth might hurt like hell when it shows up, but once it's here, it stays. And it don't ask for a dime you didn't earn. That's more than enough for me. If you enjoyed this story, hit that thumbs up and drop your thoughts in the comments below. Not subscribed yet? Smash the subscribe button and ring the bell to catch the next one. Thanks for watching. Catch you in the next story.